Welcome to Harford Housing, a local outlook. I'm Amy Janigan, Vice Chair of the State of the Municipalities Task Force for the Harford County Association of Realtors and one of today's moderators.
And I'm Diane Hessenauer, President of the Women's Council of Realtors, Harford County Network, and today's other moderator.
The last year and a half has been unlike any other. It has been extremely challenging for many industries, including the real estate industry and the housing market. Homebuyers, sellers, renters, and landlords have faced numerous challenges. Now more than ever, Harford County residents have questions about the future of homeownership, renting, and more.
The Harford County Association of Realtors is a not-for-profit professional trade organization with nearly 1,500 members who are committed to serving their clients' best interests and making Harford County a great place to live. As an association, the Harford County Association of Realtors is the voice of real estate in Harford County and an advocate for property rights and more. Today, we are joined by Harford County Council President Patrick Vincenti, the Mayor of Aberdeen, Patrick McGrady, and the Mayor of Bel Air, Amy Shemileski. Each of our guests will offer a local housing outlook and share what they are doing within the county and municipalities.
Thank you all for being here today.
Great.
We are eager to hear what's going on in each of your municipalities and across the county. To begin, people like to live near where they work. Last year was very difficult for everyone because of the COVID pandemic. Could you briefly talk about the impact it had on local business? Specifically, how many businesses closed and what you are doing to get new business back? Council President Vincenti, will start with you.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, first of all, good morning and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I think it's very obvious that none of us could have predicted the challenges that came before us because of the COVID pandemic over the last 16 months. And then Harford County is unique in the sense that council members serve as the Board of Health. And never before in Harford County's history did council members work as closely as they did as the Board of Health, with the Board of Health to assure our businesses and our public were safe and the businesses were able to open and run safely and securely through these unprecedented times. We worked hand in glove with the administration, the health department, all of our partners to make sure that our businesses, again, were open and running strong. As chair of the Board of Health, I continue to have a close working relationship with the Maryland Department of Health, the Maryland Department of Health, the Harford County Health Department, Maryland State Police, Harford County Sheriff's Office, and State's Attorney, so that while we were making sure that everyone was operating safe and securely, we were there to help educate them, give them some guidance through the executive orders, and to make sure that they were in compliance, and if needed be, we were there for enforcement. So I think that's where I would like to start with that.
Thanks, Council President Vincenti, for those interesting points. And let's give the floor to Aberdeen Mayor Patrick McGrady.
Good morning. So your question was about specifically the impact on local businesses related to the coronavirus pandemic that we're still going through. Looks like we're on the other side of it, fortunately. But in Aberdeen, so from a city government perspective, the way that we dealt with this, unfortunately, the municipal governments in the state of Maryland don't have command level oversight over Department of Health stuff. It's a state thing in partnership with the Harford County government. So while we were trying to increase the ability to communicate back and forth between the city government and the county and the state health departments, we also in Aberdeen were trying to be responsive to our businesses. So practically speaking, what that meant was making lots of phone calls early on saying, what are you dealing with? You know, we know you got locked down. How can we help? What can we do to make you able to operate, right? If the federal government or the state government's restrictions said you can't, for example, have restaurants indoors, what we did is we called and said, look, we will put in effect policies that allow you to have seating outdoors in the public street such that we can do this, right? Such that you can, you know, Frank's Pizza on West Bel Air Avenue and Park Street, so that you can put pizza on tables on streets, and so that you don't like lose every dollar of revenue coming in the door. So beyond that, I mean, the challenge from this, it looks like it's on the other side of it, but I believe that we don't know what the real impact of the pandemic shutdowns have been to this day. The funny money that was coming from the federal government has has morphed the marketplace, so we don't know what damage is going to exist when that recedes. And I think that there were a lot of businesses that got whacked, but it's going to be even uglier in the coming 18 months as that federal stimulus goes away and we start to see, you know, like Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, who's not wearing their trunks, right? And so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor McGrady. Bel Air Mayor Amy Shimoleski, what are your thoughts?
Thank you for having me, first of all. It's wonderful to be here, wonderful to be with you gentlemen. Nice to see your faces. Town of Bel Air, I think we were very fortunate. We, on record, do not have any businesses that closed because of COVID, at least that we know of or that they reported to us. I think our businesses that hurt the most were more the tourism and the ones inside the Harford Mall. The ones inside the Harford Mall, once we started doing the curbside pickup and such, they were no longer able to participate in those activities until we opened up a little bit more, and that hurt them. But thanks to the county for the grants that they provided, as well as the state and the PPP and the EIDL monies that were given, that helped a lot of those companies be able to push forward and help their employees. On the other side, we did have a couple businesses that had record sales during the pandemic, from larger to smaller. ShopRite grocery stores, fantastic, and their service is phenomenal. They really stepped up. We also had the Orient restaurant on our main street, record sales. And then our smaller boutiques, for example, Be Fabulous, just to name a few of them, they did fantastic. We worked together with the police department once we started to say, you know what, we can open up, we can do curbside. I grabbed bags from them, bagged meters in town. We waived the meter fees. The reason for the bags was to put the sign on that for the specific store so they could just zoom in, grab their pickup, and zoom back out. We needed to make it as easy as possible for these businesses to succeed and our residents to support our community and to keep these businesses in profit. I mean, they were struggling just like all of us. But it was nice. We came as a community. We started trash pickup throughout the town to get people outside. If anyone is from Harford County, you know we did Winter Wonderland this past winter, which it was nice to just get everybody out and to see everybody, which was a huge success. And we're looking forward to what's coming up in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Mayor Shimoleski. It was nice to hear those success stories amongst, you know, everything that kind of was negative.
Thank you.
Over the last year, did you make any changes to law or code that impacted home ownership or property rights? President Vincenti, we'll start with you again.
I think Mayor McGrady mentioned the fact that we kind of relaxed a lot of our planning and zoning code or building permits to allow our businesses to expand their outdoor dining. We worked with the delegation to allow them to have off-sale liquor sales with their carry-out. So that, I think, helped their profit levels come up a little bit. We have done a waiver for the city of Aberdeen to annex their property and move that along a little quicker. We gave them a waiver from the 5-year wait period, I believe it was. And as Mayor McGrady, I'm sure will tell you, being the home of the county's largest employer with more than 20,000 employees, some of which are looking to live closer to work, as you mentioned earlier, this will afford Aberdeen the opportunity to be competitive in the housing market and have opportunities there for those 11,000 plus employees that make over 6 figures a year there. We also created some sign legislation to help the James Run move a little easier as far as they're developing for, I think, some services provided there along with housing there. So we also approved the Hometown Heroes first-time home buyer assistance for Harford County employees, Harford County Public Schools, and Harford County Sheriff's Office. Those things are just the tip of the iceberg of what we've done to help keep things afloat. And then also, Harford County was a recipient of about $120 million worth of grant funding through PPE money, CARES Act money, and ARP money, and of which I think 3,800 grants were given to small businesses across Harford County, about 25 million. I know the municipalities received money out of that. I think City of Havertide gets a little over 11 million. I'm not quite sure what Bel Air or Aberdeen got, but those are parts of that funding that came in that we passed down to the municipalities. Also, a lot of money there for one-time significant infrastructure projects like broadband, which is much needed throughout the county, not just in the northern end. There's spots all around the county that need to be fixed or enhanced, if you will. So that allows us that as well.
Thank you, Pat. That's
Yep.
great countywide information. Let's see what Mayor Chmielewski has to share.
Thank you, Pat.
Yep.
And I do just want to thank the county for all that they've done. They've been very hands-on throughout all of this, and it has been very helpful. The guidance that we've gotten from the state, which trickles down, municipality is on the bottom of that, so it's nice that we have that communication with our county leaders, as well as our other municipalities. We actually had no code changes last year. Like Mr. Vincetti said, we just relaxed a lot of things, allowing for tents. On-street parking was free. We closed streets. We put tables and chairs out on the sidewalks. As everyone knows, a lot of our streets are not ours, they're state highway. So state highway then allowed us to relax their laws and their rules and their codes, which allowed us to allow our businesses to do more. A lot of our parking lots are owned by the county, and they opened them up and they said, use it as you need to, let us know when you're done, which was really nice. Being able to work consistently with our comprehensive plan, we're starting to do that now. So we're getting small groups together within the community to be able to push out and see what we need to change in our code to move forward, because our world is changing drastically and very quickly. We need to make sure that if traffic is a problem, we need to fix that. If parking is a problem, then we need to change those codes. So we have a lot ahead of us and some exciting new things coming.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that information. Mayor McGrady, will hand it over to you.
The problem is I'm a nerd, right? And so I want to explain for the benefit of everybody else the nerdy stuff that the mayor was just referencing. So comprehensive plans are part of every municipality in the state of Maryland has to, every 10 years, put together a package of all of the stuff that goes into a municipal government. There has to be a transportation component and a water sewer infrastructure component. There has to be health components. There's this comprehensive document. It's super nerdy, and everybody's going through it right now. And it's the way that people can make an impact in the long-term planning for their town. So I'm sure the town of Bel Air is interested in getting feedback from their people on this, because the challenge we have in Aberdeen anyway is getting more people engaged in that. In saying, like, what is it that you want? Like, I know you don't want just what I want, right? Because that's what you're going to get if you don't, stick your head up and tell me what you want. But that's great. Good job, Mayor. Excuse me. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. So the question was in regards to laws or codes that impacted homeownership or property rights in Aberdeen in the last year. Real nerdy again. Okay, so there's a thing in Harford County and in Aberdeen called the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, APFO. What this does specifically is it says developers, if you're going to build something, if you're going to build a residential, 5 units or more residential, apartment building or a subdivision or a townhouse, whatever, the analysis has to be done to the impact of the infrastructure, the road network, the water system, the sewer system. That analysis has to be done, and we recently changed it in Aberdeen so that the 95% of the cost of this is borne by the developer as opposed to being shared by our existing ratepayer. Traditionally, the way that development has worked in Aberdeen, I'm not as familiar with the other towns, is that there's not really a tabulation as to who's paying for these costs. And so if in 2 years after a development goes in, there's a need suddenly for a $1 million booster pump, the ratepayers pay that. And so what we recently did, and we adopted it 2 weeks ago at this point, is a change to our Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance that will permit the city to levy to make an agreement with developers to pay for 100% of the cost of development. Now, as a nerd in planning and zoning and development, I got to tell you, in dealing with these big developers. So Aberdeen, everything exciting in development is happening in Aberdeen. We've got something like 2,000 or 2,500 housing units that are scheduled to be built in Aberdeen in the next 18 months. Like, it's crazy fast growth. Yeah. Like, it'll grow the population of the city of Aberdeen by 15%, the housing stock by 20%, and it's very exciting time to be doing this stuff. But we just put into place the way to protect our ratepayers going into the future, and that's what I'm most excited about today. I'm excited about everything, but today I'm most excited about the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor McGrady. That was great. Because of the state of emergencies, emergency, renters were permitted to stay in place even if they couldn't make their rental payments. Did renters or landlords reach out to your offices for help, and what were you able to do to assist them? Council President Pat, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. We did receive multiple calls in reference to this issue, and what we did was just help navigate them through us to economic development where they had grants in place, and Mayor McGrady may be able to speak to this better than me. But they had grants in place that the tenant was able to apply for, and then they could pass that money on through to the landlord. I'm not sure how successful it was. I just know it was in place. And when we sent the individuals to economic development to look at that, we never heard back from them. So I'm assuming it was beneficial. And basically, that's what my office did as far as that.
Thanks, Council President
Yep.
Vincenti. Now let's hear what Mayor Patrick has to say.
Great, thank you. So, in addition to being the mayor, I do single-family, multifamily real estate. I have 135 rental units. So I experienced this from both sides, right? So from the, I got emails and phone calls saying, I've got in a situation, I get these calls all the time. So I put my cell phone number everywhere. As a consequence of same, I get phone calls saying, you know, I'm in a hotel and I don't have anywhere to go and I can't afford to pay for another night and what should I do? Also, you know, I have a baby and my boyfriend who lives with me has a broken arm and he can't work, right? Like, that's not an abnormal call that I get. So I see it from both sides. This year we've had challenges in the residential rental real estate market. The majority of people who work who have jobs in which they could work from home, they were fine. They were getting paid, their employers paid them, they were able to do their work. But the vast majority of people who work in our warehouses, of which there are many employees in Harford County and Aberdeen work in our warehouses in all the blue-collar jobs that weren't able to show up to work for the first 60 or 90 days, they got themselves in a bind where they got pushed behind. They weren't able to put the money together to pay the rent. And so personally, I'm dealing with a situation where I have 18 tenants today out of 130 that owe me money more than 60 days. I've got a couple tenants that owe me $12,000 because the government put a moratorium on the ability to exercise the rights of a contract, right? So we make a contract with a tenant, the tenant agrees to pay, the landlord agrees to provide a home that's clean and safe. Well, that part of it wasn't affected. So when the air conditioning fails, the landlord still has to fix the air conditioning, fix the heat, make sure the water's hot. But on the other side of it, there's no obligation for the tenant to pay. Again, this is another shoe that's going to drop soon. The state courts have opened back up. I don't know what's going to happen. My experience, Council President, with the money coming from through the state and from the county is that many of my tenants who work in these blue-collar jobs, they're honest. They're honest people. And so when they fill out the form, it says, were you negatively impacted by the coronavirus pandemic? They're like, no, I just couldn't pay my bills because X, Y, or Z. And so I haven't had one tenant who was able to get help from that. I mean, I'm not bitter about it, right? But that's the impact on the ground.
Loss of income
Yeah,
due to COVID.
you had to demonstrate to the government that you lost
right.
it because of the coronavirus, and they're like, no, I lost it because I got laid off, whatever. And you know, they're not. And I try to tell them, like read between the lines here. What they're asking is for you to say yes here, right? And so it's a challenge. So the other shoe is going to be there's going to be a lot of people looking for homes. So on the rental side of the market, there has been such a shortage of homes. It's pushing up rents. In my portfolio across the county, it's pushing up rents, and there's still a very high shortage, not only in the purchase side, but on the rental side of clean, affordable units. So it's driving people who would otherwise look for less affordable units into these ones they can't afford. Like, and that's where it's going to get burned. I'm really concerned about the future as it relates to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for your insights on that. It sounds like you had a lot of good perspectives and angles, so thank you. So Mayor Amy, we'll hand it over to you.
Mayor McGrady, that was great, by the way. I know our landlords and I know the residents and the tenants were not thinking that they were being sympathetic enough, but we need to realize the landlords are a business and they have to pay their bills as well on their buildings. So we would use the CARES Act funding. We sent them there for that. Loans and grant sources, again, from Harford County as well as Maryland Department of Commerce. We were able to help some of the landlords. Our job was to be able to keep the lights on. So that's what our economic development department, they worked with the tenants as well as the landlords to make sure that that happened, and we did everything that we could to make it possible. We have the Armory Marketplace behind us. We forgave them for rent, and we extended their tenancy so they could stay if we're going to forgive the rent for 3 months, then you can stay an extra 3 months and you don't have to pay that back. So anything that we could do to help our businesses and our residents to survive, that's very important. We do have a lot of individuals that have been laid off because of the pandemic or let go. Maybe they were given extra money from their company because they were there so long, but they're still not finding jobs. There are a lot of jobs out there, but they're not finding the jobs that they're able to do. I know our businesses are having a hard time finding employees. We're struggling with our restaurants and our storefronts. They can't get the employees in. People want to come out, they want to shop, they want to eat, they want to be social again, and they're having a hard time doing that because they can't get them into their businesses because they don't have the employees to help them. So, and then you have, people that get upset, and we just need to remember to be patient, to be kind, and we're out, we're not wearing masks. So we need to remember to be thankful for that and thankful for the people that are getting us through it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mayor Amy. This question is for this next question is for the mayors. Can you tell us what are some of the benefits residents receive for living in your municipality? Let's hear from Mayor Amy first.
All right, I'm first. Fantastic. First, I just want to say, living in Bel Air, the benefits of living in the town is absolutely quality of life. Town of Bel Air is consistently one of the top 10 safest cities. I believe we have the best police force out there. If you call the police, they're where you need for them to be at least within 5 minutes. They're keeping our streets clean. We've had a lot of activity in Bel Air through the pandemic, and they've kept us safe. The Sheriff's Department is also located on our main street, which is very helpful as well. And we have a good communication with them as well as partnerships, so that's very helpful. Government offices are on our streets, and they're always very helpful, and we can reach out to them anytime we need to. We have high household income levels. We have highly skilled and educated people within our community and our workforces. It helps to attract these higher end businesses. They want to come to Bel Air. They want to open up their stores. We've got some great things coming, and I can't wait to tell you all about that in the next year to come. But we really need to make sure that we bundle all of those things together with our community and make sure that we're making them happy and we're keeping them a part of our growth.
Thank you so much, Mayor Amy. Now, Mayor Patrick, let's hear about Aberdeen.
Great. So I love Aberdeen and Bel Air and Havre de Grace. All our municipalities in Harford County are great, and they've got different stuff going for them. So Aberdeen, so what the municipalities have that the county residents generally don't have access to is municipal trash pickup, right? We pick that up in our town in Havre de Grace and Bel Air, and then we have our municipal police forces. So Aberdeen Police, Bel Air Police, Havre de Grace Police. Which means that within the local area of our towns, our police can respond in a expeditious way. We can get to know our local police officers in a way where the county sheriff's office doesn't have the capacity to provide the high level of service that our residents demand, and I'm sure your residents demand, Mayor. And so that's one thing. Another thing that I really love about Aberdeen is the geographic location. Like Aberdeen geographically is where you want to be. It's on 95 and it's on the Amtrak rail. We've got halfway between Baltimore and Philadelphia. It's really great. And we've got lots of great growth happening on the west side of Aberdeen. I'm really excited for a lot of the stuff that we're doing transformationally on Aberdeen's Main Street. And so, again, the final thing, and really the best thing that I sell about Aberdeen is it's a value proposition, right? You get the same house that you could buy in Bel Air for 40% of the money. And like, practically speaking, it's a value proposition, and I encourage everybody to look at Aberdeen, not only for residential, but for business investment. We've got infrastructures that so again, nerdy. We don't lose power as a rule. Like the power infrastructure through Aberdeen is such that it feeds into Aberdeen Proving Ground, and because of that, it's backed up, and I have not lost power in my house in like 7 years. And so, besides that, we've got municipal natural gas. Really, I love living in Aberdeen. Everything's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor McCready. Council President Pat, we would also like to hear your thoughts about some of the benefits of living in Harford County.
Oh, I think Amy touched on it greatly, the quality of life. I am a firm believer that people come to Harford County because of the quality of life, because of all the amenities we have here in the county, because of the low crime numbers. I can't give Sheriff Gaylor and the Sheriff's Office enough credit for the job they do every day for protecting us. I personally have had the opportunity to ride along with several of the deputies and see firsthand the work they do throughout the county, the professionalism and the way they treat our citizens. So very proud of that. I think that Mayor McGrady talked about the Aberdeen Proving Ground. I believe because we have that federal installation here, it does provide us a little bit of a comfort zone. It allows us to have great employment for our citizens, which again speaks to the quality of life. The housing possibilities that are coming in the future, I think that's a great piece of being here as well. I also am going to touch on ag preservation a little bit because it does bring open green spaces, not just to one area. I want to see it all across the county, wherever it's permittable or a good fit, because I do believe our citizens deserve to have open green spaces and access. Bellevue Farm's a great example. I'm looking forward to what they do there. The forest off of Carson's Run Road, looking to see what they do there. And that total is like 12 or 1,300 acres. So I think, again, she hit the nail on the head when she spoke to the quality of life in Harford County and in the municipality.
Thank you, Council President.
Yep.
What changes, including new construction, do you think will be considered to improve housing and home ownership in the upcoming year? Let's start again with Council President Pat.
Wow, what changes? Again, I know that we recently just adopted the constant yield, so the state's constant yield, which meant lower taxes for our citizens to a certain extent. I think it was 1.4%, and now it's 1.28 or something like that. It's not much, but it is a savings. I believe that the administration has done a great job to keep us fiscally responsible and well seated for an issue like the pandemic. I do believe that they do have, or we do have, all of our citizens' best interest at heart. May not agree with everything we do, but I think at the end of the day, it's for the citizens' best interest. I know that we're looking at some other things internally at the council to help make things a little easier. I know that the administration has done things on their end to make the permitting process much easier as well. So those type of things will continue to happen to allow our citizens, not to allow, but to provide housing for our citizens in Harford County that want to live here. Yep.
Thank you, Council President. Mayor Patrick.
Great.
Thank
you. So regarding the upcoming year, I like to think longer than that. I like to think, what's Harford County look like in 5 years, 10 years? So I recently converted a commercial office building, 9,000 square feet, into 6 apartment units. As part of that, I thought that I'd be able to get $850 a month, $900 a month for these 550 square foot apartments in this former commercial office building. I have leased these units in the last 60 days for $1,300, for $1,200, for $1,150. One that was, literally, it's the smallest unit in the building. It's like 20 feet by like 13 feet. Okay, I'm renting that one for $950 a month. There is a shortage of affordable, clean, small units. Now, the way that we can do this in the future, there's a trend in development called accessory dwelling units, or granny flats, ADUs. This is a supplemental unit on a residential site that your mother-in-law theoretically could move into it. That's the idea. A small unit. As you get old, you don't want to live in your big house anymore. You live in the small unit and you rent the front house. This is a way to double the housing stock that's available in the county, in our towns, without adding extra work for the infrastructure. We don't need any more roads that cost a lot of money. We don't need any more water lines that cost a lot of money to build. And it will satisfy this need for affordable, clean housing units. If we don't do this, if we don't build affordable, clean housing units, it will push the rents to where there's a bunch of people living in junky rental units, and it will make it where Harford County is not a place where people can afford to live. The secondary and tertiary effect of that will be forcing all of our renters into big rental communities instead of being parts of our communities. That's where we want these people. We want everybody to be part of a community rather than saying those are the renters over there and these are the owners over here. And Aberdeen has a very good accessory dwelling unit policy in effect, and I'm working on promoting to the residents in our downtown core, Edmond Street, Law Street, Roger Street, Park Street, that this is available to them as an ability. For $100,000, you can build a unit that can rent for $950 or $1,000 that adds to the housing stock and gets, housing where people need it, where people want to be. And I know the town of Bel Air, this is a great opportunity for them as well. And Havre de Grace too. It's really a great thing. Where we have the existing water and sewer pipes, we need to take advantage of them rather than building out fancy new developments where we don't necessarily need it. Great.
Correct. And
I'm
the
glad
county-
that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and the county adopted the ADU as well.
I was just going to
Yeah.
say, thank you for bringing that up, because we worked very closely with the county council to get that done, because there was a lot of misunderstanding. People didn't understand the cottage rule, and the need was growing. We have more generational families living
Yeah.
together. So it was wonderful. It has helped.
So in the county, it's a challenge. So we deal with septic challenges, right, and having additional square footage, and then there's language regarding the maximum amount you're allowed to increase the size of square footage of a house. It's not, destructive, but it's confusing for a homeowner who wants to do something like that. And my mother-in-law is aging, and we're talking about what to do with her. Like,
Right.
she's independent, she lives in her home, but what does the future hold, right? Is she going to sell her house? Is she going to move in with us? Am I going to buy the house across the street from my house for her to use that one? Should we build an addition? And so it's important that we have these options available to people,
Yeah.
because after the first use, the mother-in-law, after that use, the next use could really do a lot to add to our housing stock, to add to our property tax base, and there's so much good that can come from that without getting rid of all your farms, right?
Yep.
That's trade-off, right?
Yep.
Good, thank you.
And
Thank
then
you.
I can speak to it firsthand. I mean, we have an ADU in our home. I moved my mother in with us. She lived an additional 16 years with us.
Yeah.
She would have not done that on her
And it's
own.
great.
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
get your
absolutely.
family close, it's great.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and I think it was good to hear the perspective of additional value those ADUs bring to the housing market in Harford County. That's great. Mayor Amy, will hand it over to
Thank
you.
And yes, the ADU is a great idea. We're getting ready to change our code
Great.
to be able to allow for that.
Let me know if we can help.
So absolutely, I will. You're first on my list. We're also trying to be creative with development, and we don't have a lot of green space, unlike other parts of the county. So we'd like the people that come in to build and to renovate some of these places that we do have to be more creative. We're pushing for more of a mixed use type of thing. So, on the first floor you have the small shops. On the second floor you have office space, and then on the top floor you have residential living. So we're really pushing for the developers to come in and do that type of thing to some of our buildings that are not occupied. We do have a little scary that some of these businesses are now able to have their employees work from home. So will we have empty buildings again on our streets? So maybe it's time to reinvent those buildings into other things. People are ready. They're ready to get back out there. They want to live in Harford County, wherever in Harford County.
Sure.
They just want to be at the pulse, and I think Harford County is the place to be in Maryland. We're also trying to get more space for stations for electric vehicles. We do have a couple in our parking garage. The county building has 2 that BGE has supplied, so we're not paying for those. So we're trying to find space to put more of those, because in 10, 15, 20 years, there's going to be more of those out there. Also, a broader allowances for the home occupation, and incentives for traffic calming, bike and pedestrian infrastructure. We found during COVID that a lot of our residents were walking everywhere. No one wanted to be home. Everyone needed to get out. We're connecting more of our sidewalks that were broken. Our DPW is doing a fantastic job with that, and being able to connect people. The trail is getting ready to go through, which we're really excited about. So we'll be connecting 4 communities together into one, and allowing for traffic allowances to lighten, because we don't know where they're going to be parking, but they may be coming through our town and not necessarily parking in our town. So we want to make sure it's easy as possible for people to get around.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that.
And if I may add just one thing, recently we started our government and municipal work sessions again, so that all the municipalities and the government council, the administration, Board of Ed, can all kind of sit together on a quarterly basis and get an idea of where we're going and what we can do together, better work together, I believe. So that started 3 months ago, and we'll have our first quarterly meeting with all of the partners in place in September.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you all for joining us today to discuss Harford County. We appreciate your dedication to making Harford County such a wonderful place to live. As we discussed today, it's no secret that this past year has been challenging. Nonprofits have been among those most impacted by the pandemic. To show our support to the Harford County community, we are donating $500 to a nonprofit of each of our guests' choice. For his charity, Council President Pat Vincente has selected Rally Against Parkinson's, known as RAP. RAP provides free rock-steady boxing classes and more at Forest Hill Health and Fitness to help those with Parkinson's disease fight back against the symptoms. Mayor McGrady has chosen the Aberdeen Boys and Girls Club as his charity. The Aberdeen Boys and Girls Club provides a safe place to enable all young people, especially those who need the most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible citizens. Mayor Shimoleski has selected Linking All So Others Succeed, known as LASSOS. Linking All So Others Succeeds provides critical resources needed to support integration into American society for non-native English-speaking residents. As part of the Harford County Association of Realtors' ongoing commitment to charities across Harford County, we are honored to support each of these deserving nonprofits, as the association is dedicated to helping Harford County community in many ways, whether it's through direct donations to local charities or the hands-on community outreach projects we perform each year, such as our most recent project at the Emily Bayless Graham Park, where we installed a little free lending library, bench, and tree. The association is directly responsible for annually giving approximately $15,000 to various Harford County entities, as well as over $25,000 for local college scholarships through our charitable and educational foundation. But equally as important is our advocacy work on behalf of home ownership and private property rights. Recently, we were able to work with the Harford County Council and County Executive's Office to pass legislation that allows for the marketing of in-law suites known as accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, which came up a lot in our conversation today. And you could see the value that they bring. We worked together with them get this passed. Prior to this legislation, a homeowner had to apply for a permit to allow a relative to live with them when certain remodels were made to their home, and the remodels had to be removed upon the relative leaving. Now, all the value a homeowner puts into their home can stay and be marketed legally. This happened because realtors are on the front lines of buying and selling homes. We hear what homeowners need and advocate on their behalf. That's who we are. I encourage everyone to reflect on this discussion when considering to buy, sell, or rent in Harford County. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe and healthy this summer. Now to wrap it up, I will turn it over to Diane.
The Women's Council Realtors of Harford County Network would like to thank Key Title for their sponsorship of our event. And on behalf of the Women's Council of Realtors and the Harford County Association of Realtors, I would like to thank our guests for participating in this very important message to our community. Harford Cable Network for hosting and promoting our event today, and Nevins and Associates as the association's public relations firm. Thank you and have a wonderful summer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.